Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. I hope everyone's having a good start till your Tuesday here. Got to be honest, there is blood in the markets again today. We are quickly looking at the QQQ, slated to open down another 60 basis points here at about 494. So we've broken below a lot of different support levels here. We'll take a look at some charts today, this morning, see where we stand. But, all of the talk is based around tariffs. They did go into place here today. So, the tariffs imposed 25 tariffs on goods from Mexico and Canada, an additional 10% tariff on Chinese imports. In retaliation to this, Canada announced 25% tariffs on about $100 billion worth of U.S. imports, and China responded with tariffs on U.S. agricultural goods and filed a WTO, a World Trade Organization, lawsuit. Not that those really have much meaning. It's more symbolic than anything else. But markets are definitely reeling from this. What is going to be the impact? Consumer prices, tariffs are likely to increase the cost for consumers as businesses pass costs along. Expect price hikes on groceries, cars, and raw materials, especially. So, what has been the market reaction? U.S. stocks are definitely almost all down. We've also seen global markets react negatively here. In general, the stocks is down about 1.88%. So yesterday it had hit a new all-time high, as there was some hope that maybe we would avoid these tariffs actually happening today. But you can see this terrible bear engulfing candle coming out here when it comes to the stocks 600. Same thing, the Nikkei, which is Japan's top 225, continuing to slide down and down. So, there it's even been more of an exasperated move to the downside. China, of course, would be not a beneficiary, but is in the best, many feel is in the best position to sort of withhold or stand up to these tariffs. So we do see that actually the Shanghai Composite moves slightly 22 basis points to the upside. Again, I'll be putting across what we'll see, what I've broken down here across the bottom of the screen, some of the things that are going to happen, if we start to look at sector-specific impacts, technology is going to be a big part of that there. China has banned U.S. biotech firm Illumina from exporting gene sequencers. We know NVIDIA has been just dropping and continuing to fall here now. Closed at 114, now below 110, I believe 110.52. So it has regained that 110 handle. It was right at it earlier. Again, auto industry, if we look at GM and the others, all getting hit here this morning, again down over 5% in the last 2 days after beating, getting drilled yesterday, as you can see, getting drilled again here today. So that we definitely have. What are some of the other things to worry about? The trade and political ramifications, of course. I don't think there's any doubt that this is straining the U.S., Mexico, Canada relationships, especially with the trade agreements like USMCA. I did see Commerce Secretary Lutnick on CNBC again talking about this is not a trade war. This is not about tariffs on goods. This is about stopping the flow of fentanyl and opioids into the United States from these countries, that they not only turn sort of a blind eye to them, but that they actually, in some cases, subsidize the companies making these products. Again, I don't get into a huge amount of politics here, but this probably is not the way to go about it. We do need something to happen. I don't know if this was the way that the markets definitely don't like this as the way to go about it. it's honestly about 90% of the news today is based on these tariffs. Every article you go to that I was looking to do research this morning, why is stock XYZ down? Why is Bitcoin down? Why is oil down? Why is, the Nikkei down? Why is the stocks down? Everything just keeps on coming back and pointing pretty much to the Trump tariffs. It's I'll bring it up. Literally, you go to GM, what's the first thing that comes up? US tariffs. You go to gold, what's the first thing that sort of comes up? Tariffs. We go to interest rates. And the first thing that, again, would come up is tariffs if TradingView would want to work with me. That's not what it wanted. It went backwards. Yeah, here you go. U.S. 10-year. Investors say it's time to take Trump seriously as markets recoil. U.S. stocks tank as Trump moves forward with tariff threats. It's, again, it's, literally, again, if you go to the Mag 7, you pull up NVIDIA, again, it's all about the tariffs in general, across all of them. So that is definitely dominating the news cycle. It's pretty much everything in a nutshell today. I will mention that President Trump will be in front of Congress tonight at 9 p.m. And I do have some press release from that. So he is scheduled to address the joint session of Congress Tuesday tonight at 9 p.m. It's a similar address to the State of Union, but not officially considered one due to the short duration of his current term. Obviously, a huge topic will be tariffs. Then he's going to talk about energy, the energy policies, domestic production, and energy independence likely to be highlighted. Immigration discussions focused on border security measures and immigration reforms. Department of Doge is going to be a big topic in there. The Ukraine-Russia peace negotiations will definitely be mentioned in that also. So we'll see how that goes. I will mention that the Democratic response is going to come from Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan. So that will be interesting, since the car industry, one of the areas that is going to get hit so hard by these tariff talk. Good morning, Ron. Hope you're having a good day. So, that just tends to be it. There was some earnings reports. Let's sort of get out of the talk of tariff a little bit, as much as we can here, for a few minutes at least, and talk about earnings reports. AutoZone had theirs this morning. They did have an earnings miss. Pull up my notes here for that. So again, AutoZone had their net sales increase by 2.4% to $3.95 billion, but it was slightly below analyst expectations. Their net income decreased about 5.3%, and their earnings per share of $28.29 was a miss. It had been anticipated to come in about $29.16. They did see overall same-store sales grow by 0.5%, so 5 basis points on the year, and domestic same-store sales rose by 1.9%. So they're one of the companies pointing to doing better here in the U.S. than overseas. International same-store sales declined by 8.2%. So again, not a good look there. Their gross margin remained pretty steady at about 53.9%. They did open 45 new stores, 28 of them in the U.S., 13 in Mexico, and 4 in Brazil. So again, another company that pointed to tariffs being part of what's going on there. So there, they also talked about their inventory has increased. Their inventory levels have increased about 10.4%. So that's not usually something that makes investors happy. And they did talk about share repurchase program. They repurchased 100,000 shares at about $32.91 a share for $329 million. They still have $1.3 billion that they can buy back if, under their current authorization, what they've already released. Excuse me. CEO Phil Danielle noted that while currency rates moves pressured reported sales and earnings, the international business remains encouraging with a focus on opening more stores in these markets. We'll see how that all plays out with the tariff talks there. So that would be a big part of it. But AZO, and Ron's pointing out they've been a beast for years. They have. I mean, this is about as nice of a chart, in general, if you take out here sort of the beginning of last year where it took a little bit of a fall, nice little pullback there. It's been moving. It was at all-time highs, just the other day, 35.19, or just yesterday, gapping down here this morning, but you do have to worry because any further gap down, this would be what we call a bearish engulfing candle, right? The candle is going to engulf everything from yesterday and open to the downside. So just something to keep an eye on. What I find is interesting is that they don't believe in stock splits. I'm surprised that they're a stock that trades at 34.77. Personally, if I didn't already know that they're at a crazy number, I wouldn't have guessed it by the company. So they are moving on that. Reports. Nordstrom's also had earnings here. Nordstrom's a little bit of a different boat also. For those that don't know, Nordstrom's is expected to go private. So they are looking to be reacquired by the Nordstrom family. And I do have some notes here on them, and they should have been right there, but they're not. I always forget their JWN. There you go. So they are actually up about 58 basis points here after earnings. Right now, trading at about 24.38, which you can see has been the key resistance here. So this is an interesting one to watch today, everybody. Let's pull this chart up for a second. Part of the problem, or part of the reason they're trading in a very tight thing, is again they are looking to be bought, basically acquired by the Nordstrom family and the Mexican retailer El Puerto de Liverpool for $6.25 billion, which would be $24.25 in cash. So that's why they've really been locked here in this 24.24 area. Surprising that they're actually moving above. If I had to guess, it's people that don't realize that news. So again, don't go out and buy Nordstrom here on a good earnings report, because they've sort of agreed to this, to where they're going to get bought out for $24.25 a share. But Nordstrom's in general also talked about that they had decent earnings again here, 97 cents a share. Analyst expectation was 93, so they were slightly exceeded expectations. Same thing with revenue. They had a slight beat there, 4.32 billion in overall revenue, and they saw a 4.7% increase in same-store sales. This is an interesting one because the analysts were expecting a 1.8% decline. I wonder how it's affecting ROST, which is raw stores, which is one you can trade. If their earnings they are today, I believe. I don't know if they're before or after. Here we go. So they're aftermarket. So they're getting a little bit of sympathy here, moving to the upside slightly. But raw stores will also be reporting today after hours, so you can keep an eye there. We'll point out something we'll do after we get through the open here. We'll talk a little bit more. I was going through my scanner this morning, just looking for some topics, things to talk about that weren't as much trade related here. And I was running some scanners that I do on things that are approaching the 200-day MA, simple moving average, I should say, the 200-day simple moving average. It just is sort of one of those fundamental lines in the sand, right? If a company is above its 200-day MA in general, terms, we call it bullish. And if it's below the 200-day MA, we say it's in generally bearish. Now, there could be changes to that based upon things. But what I like to do is I run a scanner that shows things that are between 0 to 3% to the SMA. I run it below the price and above the price. And, I thought it was interesting is that you find, and this is based on the close yesterday, so pre-market this morning will change these numbers slightly. But there are 55 members of this list when I run it. I only run it for the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100. They're sort of the two areas I'm looking for. These are I use this to try to decide if there's a big company that maybe I don't have a position in that is either going to hopefully use the 200-day MA as support for a bounce back where it's shown. That would have been the case in NVIDIA before what's happened recently, right? If we pull up NVIDIA's chart as an example, this has been invalidated over the last couple of days, but again, it's a good one just to show you it. TradingView definitely working slow for me today, so I do apologize for that. And what we can see here is if we zoom out here on the 200-day MA, in general, NVIDIA does not trade below it. It will sometimes hit below it. It even has had a few periods where it did here back in 2022 for a little bit. But in general, it recovers that 200-day MA pretty quickly and stays above it. So, that would be an instance or why I tend to watch it. So now for me, I am bearish on NVIDIA until it can establish itself above that 127. There's other things I look at and would look at in the case of NVIDIA to decide if I'm bearish or bullish, quite honestly. But I just know that that's one that has always sort of respected that. So I will say when days like today where you're saying maybe, you know what, there's just too much downward pressure here. I'm not going to probably try to fight this market for long positions, but I do want to take advantage of making a wish list of items, maybe stocks for my long-term portfolio that I want to get. This is the type of scanner you can run. This is using TradingView. TradingView is part of Quasar Markets platform. We do also have our own another scanner built in also. So there's actually 3 or 4 scanners from different companies that are built into the platform. But this is a good one that I like. That's a pretty simple one to take a look at. And again, what I'll do is I'll switch it out from below the 2MA below to above it. And then I just adjust it to 3% because it's the amount I like there. So I go manually in here and go 0 to 3%, apply it. And then we can look at, I could say something like, what would be a company that personally I'm looking at that I wanted maybe to have a part of that I don't right now. What, maybe it's something like Tractor Supply if I think that there's a pushback there. Let's look at one of the bigger ones. So, Lowe's, again, if we say people are not going to be buying and selling houses as much right now, but need to repair their homes, maybe Lowe's is a beneficiary of it. Again, I look at this 200-day MA, and it's pretty decent to look at. In general, they do trade below it, and they've moved significantly below it at times, quite frankly, but they do a pretty good job of recovering each time from that level, tend to move up after it. So maybe this is one I'm looking at that I like. Their all-time high was 287. They're now trading at 245. So it's had a decent little pullback here from those all-time highs. It had decent earnings. The earnings hit that was moving it up. Trade talks definitely hurting it right now. If we get a lessening to those trade conversations, could be one to take a look at on a regain of that 200-day MA. Or on the other side, if you're saying, man, Lowe's probably one really going to get hurt hard from tariffs, right? They sell a lot of lumber that comes from where? Canada. What do they also have a lot of that they sell? Cement. Where does a lot of our cement come from? Mexico. So they could be one that faces some of these tariff issues, right? So then you're going, okay, well, maybe if I see it for some reason on good news, approach this 200-day MA and get rejected, I could try to play it to the downside from there, right? So those are things that you want to look at, maybe using the 200-day MA there. We are 10 minutes from the open. Again, let's take a look here. Tick is negative right now, about 150. Advanced decline, like I said, is negative right now, about 23.27. So similar level to where it was yesterday. VIX way up there. VIX has spiked all the way to 24.14. And as a teaser there, Scott Bauer will be talking about the VIX today at 1 o'clock on Market Minds here on Quasar Markets Live. So we will be streaming that at 1 p.m. Eastern time today. This is high on the VIX. And normally would be a position that I would be looking to short it, but I am not right now. I definitely would be looking for it to make a move even as high as 30 here. Would not surprise me. So I personally am not. I will point out again, yesterday I was not bullish, guys, right? I mentioned I was bearish. I still fall into that bearish state. We need to see something that's going to turn the needle in a big way. Nothing on the earnings front, has me so excited that it's going to turn that needle around for us. Friday's economic data of non-farm payroll is about the only big thing that could move it outside of, one or two other things that would come out of the White House, right? Okay, we're going to decide that these countries are working with us and we're going to get rid of the tariffs in a quick manner. Or number two, that we have movement in a positive way out of the Ukraine. And neither of those seem to be moving in the right direction currently, which is why the VIX is up another 6% here overnight, topping 24. And again, we had seen mostly this year outside of this one little run in December, we hadn't seen a push up like that till you go back to August. And in general, if you just keep going back, that 23 area tends to be the area that it caps out at. So this is a move through that initial resistance / support line that has historically been a line in the sand to keep an eye on. I mentioned a little bit about what was going on overseas. I do have a little bit more of a breakdown there. So here we go, Japan and the Nikkei. Let's pull that up. So Nikkei experienced a significant decline overnight here. Again, you can see it hasn't really had a green spot here since February 19th. It's been in a downtrend. We did have days where it did close in the green, but those wicks are not the kind of wicks you want to see here. And I was looking, it's right at a spot here that if it breaks below this 36,637, I'm looking for a retracement towards this 35,277 area on the Nikkei. So, again, not looking that good. Auto sector specifically talked about as being an area down along with tech. And, again, it's all about the tariffs. Again, if we look at the stocks, that has been in the opposite direction, that bottomed out. Their economy has been in the toilet. Starting in mid-January, it made its rebound here, but a big blow off here today, pullback of about 1.77. So mimicking what we saw across our markets yesterday is what we're seeing here. In fact, the SPY was down 1.75 exactly yesterday. So very similar area here to keep an eye on. But overseas markets definitely hurting. Will say, those of you that are looking to buy a house and so forth, one thing moving, or that was moving in the right direction, were rates. Rates got as low the 10-year as 4.11 here before bouncing back slightly, but it broke down below that key area that we talked about with Mr. Flanagan at 424. And now the next area to target here is really this 411. Any kind of break below that 411 area kind of gives you room down to 401. So that'd be a big move down. And I will say that Lutnick, again, our Secretary of Commerce, said to watch for a move down of 100 basis points on the 10-year. So that has been the directive out of the White House, is to attack this 10-year. This not the way that I would want to see him do it, through tanking the stock market. Personally, why don't we just lower some rates here to get it to where it needs to be? But that's not the case. So, you start to look at, maybe we get that back down to that 4 level that we saw here in October. It'd be nice for that, to see rates continue to drop to the downside. I did have some analysis on the 10-year here. Let's take a look. Again, it's all tariff, tariff, tariff. Also mentioned U.S. dollar, the Dixie hit a 3-month low too. So I do want to point that out. 106.19 right now. Did get as low as 105.87 here. And keep in mind that Stephen Flanagan again pointed out that we could drop as low as 105.42 if we continue to see this, the tariffs take place and everything else work out. That's the area to watch through, where he would be looking to reestablish a dollar long play. So again, we are patient here at Quasar Markets. We preach patience here. So again, anybody looking to long the dollar, you want to see if it's going to approach that 105.420, quite frankly, as pointed out by him. We did have, economic indicators that affecting the 10-year. Also, latest ISM report indicated U.S. manufacturing activities slowed more than expected in February, influenced by weaker demand and rising prices, partly due to the impact of tariffs. And again, the upcoming jobs report is what investors will be closely monitoring as we get some insights into the labor market's health. But I can tell you from folks that I've been talking to that are in that business of employment, so to speak, especially Paul Valleja down at Capital Hire, job market is weak. We are seeing a heightened demand for safe haven assets like the bonds. So TLT is a way you could get access to that. So those of you that want to get out of the market a little bit or are out of the market and saying, where can I maybe park some money? You can see TLT here. It is down about 24 in the pre-market, but it is the one thing that's been moving up. And a TLT tracks the 20-year U.S. Treasury. So, and there are ones that track all of the different ones that you want. The 20 year is probably a good one. TLT's, I believe, the most liquid of all of the bond funds. I could definitely be very wrong. VOO is not a bond fund, right? Just want to make sure, because that would be the other one. No. So, yeah, I do think that they are there. And you know what? I can see who the biggest are by doing this. Yeah, TLT. For those that don't know, when you start to search, if you just pick a category in TradingView, it does the biggest first. So like NVIDIA pops up, Tesla, Apple by market cap. So if you pick the ETFs, you can see that the most liquid fund is, of course, the SPY, followed by QQQ, followed by the Russell 200, then TLT. And then there are other things that go there. I will point out IBIT is one of now 1, 2, 3. The 6th largest ETF out there. So interesting to see that, but you can see the rest of them here. So just, again, things that sometimes people don't know how those things work. That is definitely how it works on TradingView. We are 1 minute from the open, so we're going to stick it here. We're going to stay on the QQQs, watch this at the open, see what we get here at 4:30. I am expecting, we'll see. I always like to watch the first 10, 15 minutes before I give you guys my ideas or my thoughts on the day. So I'm going to continue that again. Like I said, patience is a virtue to have in the markets, one that we will follow even for this. We are, and as we get ready to open, we're about 57 basis points to the downside on the Qs. SPY 66, so even further to the downside right now. Bitcoin all the way back down at 82,700. That was just a false candle on Sunday. Crypto is always the first thing sold off in any type of hard times, so I am not surprised. We are open. Here we go. QQQ opens up at 493.60 here, so 493.60 and moving to the, it's just moving up and down. So 494 first moves to the upside here. So let's see what we get. Tick is negative 300. Advanced decline opens up down 3,700 here on the day. So we did open up right about where yesterday's lows were. And again, first moves are sort of to the downside here on the Qs, downside on the SPYs, now down 75 basis points. Dow Jones down 75 basis points. And small caps getting hurt a little bit more on the downside, 1.47 to the downside. Bitcoin did quickly regain 83,000 here. Gold is back above the 2,900 handle, so we are seeing a little bit of a flight to safety here in gold and silver. Both of them are up nicely here. QQQ giving up those first move gains here back at 57 basis points to the upside. Let's take a look at the MAG 7. And so far, Apple, the only one opening up to the upside. In fact, NVIDIA now down another 1.7% here at 112.07. Has been as low as 110 this morning. So again, we do see more downside so far opening up. Tesla, the one getting hit real hard here. Tesla now down at 272 here, 272. So just one that's really getting beat up. Let's take a look at this chart. That's pretty much the key spot that I'd already marked earlier. So we're right at the zone here that if it doesn't regain this 272, hold above 272, your next downside target is honestly in the 250 zone on Tesla. So any break below this 270 area, you're looking at a downside all the way to 250 pretty quickly here. So we'll see if it, so far it's holding up pretty well. Let's see if it holds. That's what I'm looking at Tesla. Can Tesla hold 270 here today? Let's take a look at NVIDIA here. What are we watching for? NVIDIA looking a little bit better. You're trading to the higher side. Its downsides to 107.37 that I've pointed out here on the charts today. So 107.27, 23, the area that I'm watching to the downside. But again, so far we're holding up pretty well. Tick still down about 300. Advanced declines moved down more than 4,000 here. So not looking too strong. NVIDIA was down as much as 2%. Tesla down another 4% here. Do see Baidu up 1.97. We'll mention that some of the Chinese names were the only things, and you've seen it again here. JD up 67 basis points. A lot of the things that I saw that were up today were Chinese names. Not seeing really any flyers. Wow, not much there moving to the upside. Google's gone, oh, no, it hasn't. Apple, the only thing positive from that side. Solana back down at 135. Ripple back at 230. So most of those have given back almost all of the gains. Cardano back at 80 cents. So again, you know, the takeaway there, those were short-lived. What is moving up on good earnings is Okta, O-K-T-A, the software company. And if we take a look at their news, they did have they're also starting to get some analysts weighing in on their and we can see they've been maintained overweight by KeyBank. They raised their target to 135. We see that 140 out of West Park Capital. Wells Fargo moved it to 100. Oppenheimer 135. So most of them in that 135 area. Mizuho 127. So Okta definitely moving to the upside here. Earlier, giving back some of those gains, trading around 98.50, but still up 13%. A lot of the other ones that were up earlier this morning have now retraced. Plug, who had its earnings yesterday, now down 6.33%. I did want to keep some of these up here because what I've noticed is a bunch of these have a few names that were doing well yesterday have retraced the entire amount that they moved up yesterday. And what I meant there is, for instance, Apple Oven saw a nice move up yesterday. overnight gap back down, and you can see, yesterday it traded as high as 358. Right now back down at 326. Palantir down at the $82 level here. So again, we're seeing more moves to the downside here than upside so far. Things that are moving up otherwise, Walgreens on the news that they could get acquired. Sycamore Partners is the one that's looking to take over Walgreens. So that's the news there. I will say Z-Lab up 4.07% here today. I'm not sure if I saw any news there. This looks like it's a reversal of yesterday's downgrade from Bank of America that had them down tremendously yesterday. They've done pretty much almost over a 50% reversal here and now moving to the upside. So good to see that. Tick still negative, but moving more towards the neutral side. Advanced decline seems to have moved to the negative 4,000 range and sort of capping out there. QQQs are moving back to the upside. They were down almost 75 basis points, now only down 35 basis points and moving up. Dow Jones down 93 basis points, coming off the lows of the day at 42,714, back up at almost 42,800 here. So we are seeing a little bit of buying steep in. Where we are seeing buying is Bitcoin back above 84 here. So Bitcoin seeing some love so far. Gold retracing a little bit this morning. It was up as high as 29.27, back around the 29.10 handle here. Let's see what's going on with the VIX. VIX at 24.45, so holding up. Hasn't really spiked one way or the other since the open here. Bitcoin 84.5, so Bitcoin nicely moving up here. So liquidation's hitting it. It's moving up in a pretty rapid way here. 84.8. First spot to keep an eye on here, that where it needs to regain, is that 85,336 area. We'll say nicely used the 200-day SMA as support earlier today. That's the key spot to the downside that I'll be watching. It needs to stay above the 82,500 area for me to feel confident there. Let's take a look at what is the movers and shakers so far today. So the big winners in the S&P 500 so far, a lot of defensive plays out there. When I say that, American Tower Corp up 2.29%. SBA Communications, some of these companies that we tend to see a move into. But you see Walgreens, the big winner, up 5.46. Supermicro, which was down big in the pre-market, up 3.47%. But they've, that has not been a good-looking chart. It did regain the 50-day SMA here, but it was continuing to slide here. It's been as low as 34.58, regained 37.50, trying to move to the upside. So a nice little recovery here by them. Nvidia has now moved to the upside here. Nice bounce back here, 114.30. So unlike yesterday, we are seeing a little bit of a buy of this dip here this morning. So we are starting to see a little bit of a move back here. Nvidia and Apple now upside plays. So far, tick has gone positive here. It's teetering back and forth between positive and negative. Dow Jones down 87 basis points so far. The SPY down 70. QQQ down 40 basis points. And the RUT down 1.6, the big loser so far. As I mentioned, Bitcoin seeing some liquidations now back above 84.5. Do see chips starting to get a little bit of love here, it looks like today. In fact, absolutely, we see TSM up 3.8%. Again, yesterday they had news of their investment into the U.S. It is widely thought that will be a partnership with Intel, who was up yesterday, but Intel again giving back the gains we saw yesterday, now down 2.11% here today. And we had seen them shoot up as high as 25 yesterday, now trading back at 22. Some other chips moving up. AMAT, AMAT moving to the upside, which is Applied Materials. ARM, who I believe had earnings, so maybe that's got some moves here. Let's see what ARM has going on. No, it doesn't list that they had earnings. In fact, it looks like they had earnings back in early February, so I'm wrong there. Marvell down about 1% here. Oh, excuse me, Micron. Wow, I gotta get my eyes adjusted. NVIDIA is holding up, though, 114.12 now, so good to see that. As we look at the Mag 7, we see Google now moving to the upside. Tesla trying to reverse a little bit, regain 275 here. Netflix back below 1,000 at 969. It's been struggling to get back above that and hold. NVIDIA has now gone negative. So, again, we're seeing a lot. Any kind of sort of move to the upside seems to be getting sold off fairly quickly here in general. Tick now back negative 282 so far. Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau set to do a press conference at 10:30, I see here this morning. So we'll see what they have to say up there. Trying to see what else they're talking about. You know, obviously the auto dealers or auto companies getting hit hard. Ford, GM, Stellantis were all down earlier today. If we look, Tesla down 4%, Toyota down 1%, Ferrari down 1.28%, GM down 3.95%, Ford down 2.37%. Honda's holding up the best, down only 4 basis points. Stellantis down 4.62 so far, the biggest loser. You actually have Hyundai and Lee, although why does Hyundai say it's delayed opening? Oh, no, because that's overseas market. Never mind. So, yeah, auto's getting hit pretty hard here, as we talked about. Let's see, the steel industry should be getting hit real hard. It is. You know, steel is just getting crushed here. Cleveland Cliffs down 5.3%. Nucor down 3.74%. Steel Dynamics down 3.94%. U.S. Steel down 2.88%. When we look more at aluminums, Alcoa down 2.46%. Worthington down 2.3%. So again, everything sort of related there. Home builders are getting a little bit of love today with the rates dropping. They're sort of one that could be a winner here. So we see Lennar up about 47 basis points. DR Horton, which you guys know if you've been watching here, I do think is the best in class when it comes to a stock for the builders, up about 74 basis points, and Pulte Homes up 0.23% or 31 basis points right now. So we do see that there. One area that is moving to the upside, if we look at restaurant sector, let's start to look through some of these sectors here, see if we can get any winners or losers. It looks like McDonald's, Yum, and QSR, so fast food moving to the upside. Darden, which had been moving up last week or earlier this week on their good earnings, is giving up about 83 basis points. Wow, Kava getting hit pretty hard here, down 4.13. Let's see if they had earnings or anything that's causing that. No, they had earnings the other day. So I'm not sure. Kava getting hit real hard here. Same thing. Shake Shack down about 3.75% here this morning also. And then Eat, which is Brinker International, parent company of Chili's and others, 148.19. So they are on the downside also here. Financials all getting hit pretty hard here today, too. So we had seen them earlier in the morning yesterday. These were mostly to the upside. JP Morgan down 3.17. Bank of America down 4.48. Wells Fargo 4.74. So again, right across the board. Wow, Citi down the most, 6.21%. Trying to see if even the international banks are down. So even some of the international banks like SMFG, which is Sumamoto, MUFG, which is Mitsubishi, UBS, which is UBS, which are international banks, TD being a Canadian bank, or Toronto Dominion, down 1.97. So, yeah, overall, not good there. Let's take a look at e-commerce. As I mentioned, some of the Chinese names are moving to the upside. Wow, C Limited, which did have earnings this week, so they might have had their earnings today. They did have earnings today. They did have a top line revenue beat of about 6.39%. They came in at 4.95 billion versus an estimate of 4.65. Let's see if they've got any news on it here. Here we go across the market. And it says C reported Q4 earnings, 39% diluted shares, swinging from a loss of 19 cents a year earlier. So a nice little year-over-year gain. The analyst surveyed by FactSet had expected 30 cents. So a nice little move there. Let's see if they have any more information here. Here we go. CEO said they delivered a great 2024. All three businesses going back to strong double-digit growth, exceeding original guidance. Second consecutive year of annual positive profit. All three businesses recording positive adjusted EBITDA. E-commerce, he said, grew 28% year over year. So that's good to see. Digital financial services delivered an exceptional loan book growth of more than 60% year on year in the fourth quarter. And then digital entertainment was a great year for Garena, it said, marking Free Fire's remarkable comeback with annual booking growing at 34% year over year. So again, C Limited looks like it had some great earnings. They are moving up on that news, bringing some of the Chinese names with them, not all. eBay having a pretty good day here, up 1.06%. Target, which had been doing okay after their earnings, and I did have some information on the Target earnings here. They are now down 5% off of their earnings here. So Target, who had an earnings beat, and I do have some information here. So the Target reported strong fourth quarter earnings, but expressed caution about the future performance due to various challenges. Key points included their EPS was 241. Analyst expectations were 226. So a nice little win there. Net sales decreased, though, 3.1% year over year. It did beat expectations, but of course, you never want to see a loss in sales. Comparable sales increased 1.5%, driven by strong demand in categories like beauty and apparel. And then when you look at their guidance and outlook for fiscal year 2025, they expect flat comparable sales and earnings per share between $8.80 and $9.80, aligning with the market estimates. And the company anticipates meaningful year-over-year profit pressure in the first quarter due to factors such as tariff uncertainty and weak demand on consumer spending. Target had faced backlash and boycotts after ending its diversity inclusion initiatives, which may have affected some store traffic. And, that's what we're looking at there on Target. I haven't pulled up my tweet deck yet here this morning. Let's see what is going on across there. The market's been open 20 minutes. The tick is still negative here, down 3,700, 4,200, or excuse me, 420, 357. The advanced decline down 4,250, so still moving to the downside. VIX at 2440. We see the Dow is now down 1.11%. The SPY is down right about 1 percentage point. The Qs are down 60 basis points, and the RUT is the big loser so far in the day, down 1.66%. Bitcoin still above 84, but not above the 84.5 handle we'd seen, and gold retracing a little bit here back to 2,900. Let's take a look at DXY, see if that's moving up here, is causing any of this. It is moving up slightly, 106.22, but not really, right in the middle of its daily range here. Trump says Canada doesn't allow American banks to do business in Canada, but their banks flood the American market. Doesn't seem fair. It's just going to be a long day of watching tweets back and forth about, what's going on with tariffs. So just expect that. Mexico's main stock index widens losses. They're down 2%, so even worse than what we're seeing here in the U.S. But Scheinbaum did say that she will speak with Trump on Thursday, so we are getting a little bit of a movement there. Yeah, I mean, everything is basically, tariff, 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 tariff. So it makes it a little hard here. There isn't a bunch else to really see that's moving on. I'm just trying to see any other news here. BlackRock's still raising money. BlackRock's Global Infrastructure Partners is close to raising $25 billion for its latest flagship fund, some that would make it one of the largest in the infrastructure area. EU to present action plan for steel sector on March 19th. So Europe looks like it's going to respond to what's going on here. Take a look and see what's moving up the most and moving down the most here in the markets again. So Biogen getting a little bit of a move up, 2.57. Amgen. So it's a lot of healthcare is a lot of the things moving up. General Mills actually moving up 2.42%. Otherwise, most of these are healthcare companies. Let's include the NASDAQ in this also, at least the NASDAQ 100. Doesn't really bring in anything too exciting in there. So food companies are seeing a little bit of a win here. Procter & Gamble, General Mills. Let's look at the bigger losers. Best Buy down 13%. They did have earnings today. Let's take a look here at what we get for earnings information. Best Buy getting hit real hard here. Was down as low as, wow, they're down 75.42. Whew. Down 12.6%. So let's see what they got here. And it says, this is an article from the Wall Street Journal. Best Buy Chief Executive Officer Corey Barry says that prices for U.S. consumers will likely to rise as President Trump's tariffs on China, Mexico, and Canada take effect. We expect our vendors across our entire assortment will pass along some level of tariff cost to retailers, making price increases for American consumers highly likely, Barry said on the consumer electronics chain's earnings call Tuesday. China and Mexico are two of the company's biggest supply chain sources. So again, that definitely is doing it. I do see that they raised their quarterly dividend to 95 cents a share from 94, so a penny, not much there. Barron is reporting that, they had better than expected earnings, but the stock is falling anyways. They posted adjusted earnings at $2.58 a share, which beat Wall Street's calls for $2.40, and revenue came in at $13.95, beating an expectation of $13.68 also. But they were down from a year earlier. So again, better than expected, but still down from the year prior, has them down like the rest of the market. So Best Buy getting hit here, man. I don't think that they're even... Tell you what, they did fill the gap to the downside on that gap that was created back here in... Well, no, they didn't. They filled it to the top. Never mind. They didn't fill that gap yet for May. So that gives you a downside to fill that gap. But Yeah, Best Buy definitely not looking good here for sure. Other laggards on the day. If TradingView will post them for me here. Come on. Try that again. See, an S&P 500 erases all of the election gains, wipes out 3.4 trillion in value. So again, if this was the idea of the administration, they definitely have done it. The market is just railing still. European companies from Swiss chocolatiers to German car part makers are preparing their plan Bs to adapt to the U.S. trade tariffs that became a blunt reality with a second barrage specifically targeting the region expected next month. I will say that Lutnick, again, the Secretary of Commerce, did say that on, I believe it was April 2nd, the next bout of tariffs will be coming out. So they warned of even more. So let's see here. Tick still negative here, negative 300 right now. Advanced decline now at minus 4670. VIX has climbed up even further to 2466. Bitcoin back below 84,000. Gold approaching the 2,900 handle. So we're seeing a drop really across almost everything here except for the VIX as we get ready to call it on our first hour of the day. Do want to point out, have some great stuff for you today. We have Dr. Alan Ellman coming on next from the Blue Collar Investor. Did a great show with him yesterday about 5 things that he has noticed over the years that traders make mistakes when entering covered call strategies. So he breaks those down for us. At 11:30, we have the technical analysis crew in from Bullish Bears, Jeremy Vreeland and Matthew Tuttle from Tuttle Capital, breaking down their charts. Jeremy is just a master when it comes to the charts, so you definitely want to see that. Then at 1 o'clock, we got Prosper Trading, Scott Bauer in. He's going to talk about the VIX. He says, do you really know what the VIX is? Is it really the fear index? How does it work? How do you trade it? So on a day-to-day where it's up 9% would be a good day to pay attention to that at 1 o'clock. And then we even have more stuff coming on after that. We will have an interview that BigBeat Stephen Orr, our CEO, did with Michael Litt, talking about the macroeconomic look of these tariffs. So we'll bring that on right after Scott and the team of Prosper are over. So busy day today. Just keep your head on a swivel. Make sure you're watching the markets. Don't be afraid to take profits fairly quickly on a trade here because one tweet can change it. Again, President Trump will be speaking to Congress tonight. That will do it. Everything is tariffs. And as I said, President Sheinbaum saying U.S. tariffs are violating the trilateral North American Trade Pact. We talked about this earlier, so we'll see what happens here. Folks, have a great day, and we will see you later on Quasar Markets Live.